What up, y'all? This is Mike Brown, and I just wanted to say thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. I appreciate y'all listening. If you like the show, please subscribe wherever you listen to this show. Also, leave a comment. Let people know what you think. Happy Black History Month to everybody. I know we focus on it for a month, but we create Black history every day. So, yeah, man. And this is The Art of Letting Go. Boom. And we're recording here. All right. Yo, what up? This is Mike Brown, and this is The Art of Letting Go. Today, I got a special guest in the building. You was on a group episode, actually the largest group episode I've had, but this is your first time on the show by yourself. We met at a Xavier Mixer in Houston for incoming freshmen. We stayed in the same freshman dorm. You mind introducing yourself to the people?
Yeah, man. Thomas, I'd say, like you said, yeah, I mean, born and raised, Houston, just like you, just all of a sudden decided to go to Xavier. I mean, that's a story within itself, how that came to be, but decided to go to Xavier. And I remember getting that invitation. I was like, what is this? Or like a meetup before we get down there?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let's go do it. And then I remember it was standing room only. Go in there, and then there's this tall guy just kind of standing, and it was me and my mother. I remember, and I remember there was one guy. I'm not gonna say his name. He wouldn't. My mother was standing up, and I remember he was sitting down right next to her. He was sitting down right next to where she was standing up. And not one time did he say, "Man, would you like this chair?" I remember that was bothering me for a while. I was like, man, this dude right here, we might not get along.
That's hilarious.
And, yeah, but it wasn't you, because you were standing up. But then, afterwards, I, met you or whatever, and rest is history. That was over 15 years ago.
Yeah, man, that's a long time ago. Shit, how you doing today?
Man, I feel like I'm all right, man.
Yeah.
I'm all right. Can't complain. COVID free.
Yeah, I kind of want to backtrack a little bit just because, like we both from Houston, but I could say, like, honestly, I'm from the suburbs, through and through. But I wanted to know, what was your experience like growing up in Houston?
So my experience growing up in Houston was super, I feel like it was pretty unique because, y'all give me a lot of crap about this, but like I was one of the people who I feel like it was a good thing. It was problematic for me at sometimes, but I had the opportunity to live on both sides of town growing up.
Yeah.
And when I say both sides of town, because Houston got multiple sides of town, but the main two sides of town that were having controversy was the North and the South. And I had the opportunity to live on both sides, being on the Southwest side and on the North side. And that experience was something. So I got the mix of music wise, culture wise, just being on both ends of it and seeing how life was on both sides. It was interesting to see.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I was born in Houston. I went to middle school in League City. That shit is far out as fuck. And Yeah, went to high school in Mo City, and all that shit was interesting to me because like growing up in League City, it was like predominantly white. Um, Mo City was pretty mixed, but I remember like experiencing racism in like elementary and middle school. Um, did you ever experience that shit?
So racism, actually, I really didn't. So like again, with my unique journey, from being born, up until I left to go to Xavier, I had been in all types of schools. I've been around where it was like the majority minority, where it was like it's pretty much Hispanics and blacks only.
Yeah,
And I had been in schools where it was like majority white. And so it was weird, like kind of bouncing back and forth sometimes. And I guess for you being in League City, maybe that was just so far out to where you kind of, where more of that racism occurs. But for me, if I did, if I did get around like a majority white situation, it wasn't really coming across that way. At least not directly enough for me to realize it as a child.
yeah. No, that shit
You know,
was clear. But I appreciate you sharing that because when I talk to people, sometimes, especially out here, people swear that Texas is just like more racist than anywhere else, and nah,
no,
it's the same
no, that's
everywhere.
not true. That's not true. Like I was able to like I went to West U Elementary for a little bit,
Yeah,
and that I mean it was still racially diverse, but it was majority white,
yeah,
and like I never got that vibe, but I mean the black kids would congregate a little bit more to each other during recess, and then that was a culture thing.
yeah,
But when it came time to just like playing sports, like or whatever we were doing, I didn't get that vibe. And then when I went to another school later on, that was sort of like that. Um, like it was majority white, but it was super more mingled. Like they were like nobody ever brought up or made you feel like any difference within race. And but it was still pretty much like it was kind of like it was like the suburbs of the city, but it wasn't like deep in the suburb. It was like right there on the edge of what you might consider suburbs and not,
yeah,
if that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah,
So I don't know if that had something to do with it, but yeah, like no, I wouldn't. I mean, especially, I mean, Houston was diverse back then, and it's even more now, being the most diverse city in America. Um, I don't. I mean, racism is always going to be around and all over. So
yeah.
whether you want to say, "Oh, I'm in California," well, I mean, there's a lot of KKK going on in California too. So
Exactly. Open
like
though, like open.
KKK. Yeah, like yeah, you go looking and
Anaheim,
yeah, yeah,
where Disneyland at.
yeah, yeah. We talking like Orange County. Yeah, it's there. I mean, you can find it all over. Like I saw. It was on a documentary. Like they had KKK like Aryan Brotherhood people like in Oregon. And I'm like, what are y'all doing in Oregon?
Yeah, man.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But like, and then some people don't realize too, like, you know, this didn't just start happening. Like back in the day when LA was growing back in the 50s and the 60s, like they recruited cops from the South. And they didn't just as soon as they crossed state lines and they got to the West Coast, all of a sudden all that deep hatred just all of a sudden disappeared.
Right. That's
Like
real.
all that stuff continued. So yeah, I mean that stuff travels.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Man, what was it like transitioning from Houston to New Orleans for you?
Oh man, transitioning. I mean, to me, it wasn't. it wasn't much transition. I didn't really think about a transition because I had been to New Orleans so many times throughout my life.
Yeah.
I had family from there. I had family that was there, and I had been there, just throughout my entire life. And so whether that was for Mardi Gras or to visit family, so it just wasn't anything that was really thought about. Like I felt like I already knew that place. It was like another home almost. So I was just ready to jump in. But I knew one thing, that I was gonna be me. I knew where I was from, and I was gonna bring that with me.
Yeah.
And like like I at that time, like I wasn't gonna hide it either. Like this is me. This is where I'm from. I'm proud to have the New Orleans roots, but I was a dude from Houston.
Yeah.
And so like I carried both of that with me. How about you?
Same for me. Like the city didn't really feel like a transition, just because I mean I was spending so much time in New Orleans growing up and shit. But I think college, like going to a HBCU, was really that transition for me, because it was my first time being around like completely all black people. You know what I'm saying? Like being in a 100% black space and seeing black people from like all different walks of life, and like, just different types of black people, like cool black people, nerdy black people. Like it was a beautiful thing to see for me, because I remember, just being in spaces where we be the minority, and it feeling like people used to have to like prove like who was the blackest, you know what I mean? Like high school, middle school, it was like, it's only like 8 of us here, so I gotta show that I'm blacker than you. And just me being the shit that I was into kind of made me like somewhat, I don't know if I would say like, because I wasn't nerdy, but I kind of did my own thing. Like I hoop, but I was in the band, you know what I mean? I was in the math club. I was into shit like that. So it was easier to make a joke about a nigga because of that shit. But going to Xavier and just being able to just be my complete full self, like that was an amazing experience.
Yeah. One thing that when you're talking on like the personalities that touched for me was like, I remember one thing that was new for me was being around the super nerdy black kids that were also trying to make the appearance that they weren't that.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like some people, were trying to, like, I could see who they were, and I'm talking about, like, I knew that person was nerdy. Like, that was a nerd through and through. And but I could see that they were trying to still portray this other persona, and I could see right through that. And so I was like, what are you doing? Because I wasn't used to that.
Yeah.
Like, where I had just left school was like, if you were nerdy, you were going to go do nerd stuff, and you weren't going to come over there with us.
Yeah.
Because where the rest of us were that weren't nerds, like, it was too much crazy stuff going on. Yeah. So, like, you were going to go over there, and we didn't have that many nerdy black kids. But if you were, we would really almost never see you unless it was in class. You weren't hanging out in the hallways like we were.
Yeah.
And you weren't doing those other. So like to see it was like seeing one of those kids that I only ever see in the classroom, all of a sudden trying to come down and be where we were. And that was a tripped out thing for me.
Yeah. That's funny you say that. And like, as you were saying that, I was thinking like y'all were like the first group of friends that I truly felt safe with. And what I mean by that is like, I had friends in high school and shit that, yeah, they made me feel protected, but I also knew being with those people, I was going to get into some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been times where I've been at a party with somebody or being in a situation with somebody where somebody might shoot or a fight might break out or some shit. Like, I knew with y'all, it was like, man, they just like me and they ain't trying to get into no shit. They just trying to just have fun and chill. And like, I really appreciated that shit, but it was new to me because I'd never been around people that were like me. Like everybody, you know, the people that I hung with in Houston, and shout out them too. Like that's no diss to them at all, but it's just like we all grew up in the same neighborhood together. So that's why we was really riding tough, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, like when I was with y'all, like y'all kind of helped me like come around to like, okay, look, like this is kind of how you should be in school, you know, because for me, like I came from a school where I never, like my whole 4 years of high school, I never studied one time.
Yeah, same.
So I didn't know how to do it. So like coming in and I'm like, you know, like, okay, yeah, we need to go hit this library. I'm like, library? Like, y'all checking out a book? Like, y'all, like, we in a library car? Like, what are y'all doing? And so, you know, that was a little bit new to me. And so like just seeing like kind of like how y'all were. And then like I'm also loyal too. So like I came also where I came from, like you didn't switch up on people. You didn't start trying to be something that you weren't. You just didn't try to do any of those things. That's why, like I said, like those nerds, they didn't come down there and try and hang with us because it was going to get exposed at some point that they weren't who they were trying to portray. So they knew not to do the switch up. And so like even with y'all, like if when I met y'all and like I saw that y'all was cool, y'all was genuine, y'all didn't seem to be trying to be somebody y'all weren't or whatever. Like I was like, cool, like, you know, hey, these dudes right here, like they cool with me, then I'm about to hang with them.
Yeah.
And you know, even if somebody was a tad bit nerdier than what I was used to or whatever, like I wasn't really tripping off that because I was like, all these dudes are genuine, you know, like they genuinely like who they are, and there's no fraud stuff going on, and I feel like that they're gonna keep it 100 all the time,
Yeah.
regardless. And so, and that's just, you know, that was all that was cool, and that was all I needed. You
Yeah,
know,
man.
as far as finding my group, and it's been like that, you know, ever since. Been like that ever since. You
Yeah.
know, and I knew everybody there wasn't gonna be just like me. Like I knew, you know, I knew I could be a little rough around the edges sometimes, and but like that's cool, you know. Like, but I didn't have to go and hang around. Like, nah, like I was smart enough to know, like man, look, we in school, so like if you coming up here like trying to be in the same environment that I had kind of been around when I was in high school, like then why did I come here? Why did I could have stayed there and been in that same stuff.
Right.
But like
Yeah.
why did I come here? Because I knew that I wanted to get to another level, better myself, get an education, and you know, just make something of myself to have a better life. So I don't I need to look forward on this train and get on what this is about and learn what I need to learn.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
did people respond to your growth, like when you would go back home?
Oh man. Well, everybody was pretty cool because like I didn't I didn't really speak on it, you
Yeah.
know. So like, but I would go back and just be me, and that was one thing that people used to tell me about myself back then. Like they knew like I was always gonna be me, and I wasn't gonna be a follower. I was gonna do what it was that Thomas wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so when I went back, like, you know, I would visit them and you know, visit people and go hang around and all that. And I never got any pushback, but it was me that noticed my growth. And I knew that, okay, some of the stuff that everybody's kind of, you know what I'm saying? Some of the stuff that everybody's kind of doing, um, I don't necessarily want to hang around all of it, you know, all the time. I don't really want to be around it all the time just because, like, I don't know what might pop off.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I guess I stopped going around as much, you know, and then it just became less and less. And I think the more and more that I just started to grow, the more the distance, you know, kind of came.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like, you know, I don't know. But then there's still some that I'm more in contact with than others. And what's funny is I think the as that circle got smaller, it was like I mainly somehow kept more in contact with those that sort of continued on a similar route that I was going.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just because like we were able to relate more at that point.
Yeah.
Because I can't really go back home and talk to certain people about everything that I was going through, dealing with, experiencing, you know, because we on whole different paths now.
Yeah.
So
Man,
did you experience the same thing?
honestly, man, when I would go home on breaks and shit, I would probably be kicking it with y'all and not even really seeing nobody from high school and shit.
Yeah. Because I mean, again, like we could directly relate on a lot of things. Like
Yeah.
during the break, a lot of times we wanted to go to the same types of parties that we
Yeah.
were going to when we were out there. And then we were talking about the same stuff, you know, like whether it was this person or that person, um, whatever new drama was going on or whatever at school.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a much more relatable situation, you know? I mean, even now, like with everybody with their inside jokes and all that, like that stuff is only developed with, you know, the constant I guess community that you make.
Yeah. How was it for you when you left Xavier?
Oh man, that was tough because it was I left Xavier really because of a financial situation.
Yeah.
And so it was super tough for me. Um, because like I wanted to stay there with y'all, but then I was like, man, I kind of felt backed into a corner. Like I don't have no choice.
Yeah.
But and sometimes I did feel a little, you know, it. I guess sometimes I kind of felt left out with you know with maybe some of like because I think y'all eventually ended up even going on like some trips and stuff like to Florida and all that.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, like somehow I didn't get included in the loop on some of these things that y'all were doing. So I was just like, dang, like they couldn't even tell, you know. But you know me, like I wasn't finna like hold that in like that. But I
Yeah.
remember I was just like, dang, like they ain't even tell me about, you know, they was going this or doing that. But I understand I was a little out the loop at that point.
Yeah.
And so
Cause I was trying to think just now. I was like, well, damn, why didn't we? But then also like, I think you had moved in with like Mike and them, and like we kind of, I feel like we probably wouldn't seen you as much.
well, no, y'all weren't but I'm talking about after I had left.
Yeah.
But
Oh
like
yeah, that's real.
but like
That's real.
yeah, but when I was there, like yeah, we didn't see each other as much because I think some of y'all had still stayed in the dorm in St. Martin, right?
I was
And
last out of there.
yeah, like you were a lifer in there. And, and I remember I was like, man, I'm getting out because I was trying to save money because I knew like I had that financial issue coming. And so I was trying to say, I was like, well, yeah, like let's go ahead and move off. And then part of it is probably because, you know, like, you know, some other reasons that we don't have to get into. But, you know, because you know, same one, you had some visitation restrictions, you know. So I was like, man, I can save money and I can have whoever I want over there whenever. Like, yeah, like let's. But um, but so I just, you know, I I think whenever I moved to that spot, yeah, I saw y'all a little bit different because I didn't have my own car over there.
Yeah.
So it was like I was moving back and forth on other people.
Yeah.
So if you weren't coming to see me or picking me up, it was kind of like, yeah, I didn't really see you that much. But then, like, I was still seeing y'all and we would still hang out here and there. But I think where I really felt, just kind of like the separation is when I left and y'all finished and went ahead and graduated from there, and I graduated at U of H.
Yeah.
And then what's funny, which shows a lot about us, though, is that, just a few years later, only maybe 2 years later after that we had all kind of came back together in California.
Yeah, man, you mentioned California, and I was going to touch on that because it seemed like, because I was going to start, we were in New Orleans, and then y'all went to Atlanta, and then we all came back to New Orleans, and then you went to Houston.
I kind of skipped over that. So Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah. And
Hurricane Katrina. I mean, you remember I still remember that week like it was like 2 weeks ago. Do you remember that?
I do, man. I do remember driving a lot, and I remember driving a lot. I remember staying in the house with buku people.
Well, before we even get to that part, the leaving, I'm talking like leading up. That was setting up to be the man. That year was gonna be so fun, man.
Yeah,
like it did not make no sense how good that year was going. I was like, wow, like this is it. And like I remember we had it was so many students there that they had put a bunch of us in that overflow dorm.
Yeah. And
where it was like an apartment, and they didn't know what in the world was going on with us.
Yeah.
So E-Rev, everybody, all of us that was over there, we were treating this like a real off-campus apartment. It was crazy. Funny. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. And then of course they tried to set us up in St. Martin. They were like, y'all doing too much, so we're gonna shut this down. But so we got. I remember when we were going to class that week, and you gonna laugh at this, but I'm telling you, I was killing pre-cal. I was killing it. I mean, it was a week, but all them little assignments that she gave me, I was killing. I was like, I'm killing pre-cal. I'm like, oh man, it's about to be on.
Yeah.
She gave us a quiz and everything. I'm killing it. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And then I remember that Saturday was the Kappa party.
Yeah.
We had been talking about that party all summer, and then all week. And I think it was that Thursday, man, it was they was like, y'all gotta evacuate. I was like, oh man. This is terrible. But again, we was like, all right, we're gonna come back next week, and then we're gonna get right back in this thing.
But you know what? That Katrina break kind of felt, that's what the beginning of this pandemic kind of felt like for me. It felt like another shift in what I thought the year was going to be. Like you said, that year was supposed to be an amazing year, and it shifted. And that's kind of how I felt in 2020. I was like, man, 2020 going to be the shit. It's going to be this. And then that shit happened, which 2020 was still really dope. But yeah, that's kind of what everything reminded me of.
Yeah, I could see that, because it was whatever plans that you had, even though our plans were on a much smaller scale, we just planning as far as school, but everything got jolted out of your control.
Yeah.
Which from something that typically never happens. This is a hurricane that completely shut New Orleans down for months. Never happens. Pandemic shut us down for almost a year now.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, that was disappointing. And I remember getting back and I was just like, I just couldn't believe it. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. I was like, I remember you had sent us you sent me a text message or no, I was on the phone with you. And I remember we had a conversation and I was like, I wasn't accepting the reality. And I remember you had told me, you was like, man, ain't nobody going back to New Orleans no time soon. And I was like, nah. I remember I just would not believe it. I was like, nah, man. Like, man, it might be like a few weeks. It might be a few weeks, man, and we'll be back. Like, this water not gonna sit around forever.
Yeah.
And then when we started getting the stuff from the school, I was like, ah. And me and James, I swear we were both like, man, because we thought our option was probably like TSU.
Yeah.
And we were like, man, no, man, we ain't trying to go to TSU. And then that's when we, just to kind of skip forward in the story, we made that trip to Atlanta. I remember it was down to Atlanta and Miami.
Yeah.
Because there was a school in Miami that sounded like they were willing to take us.
Yeah.
Because what was funny too is like the schools on the West Coast, they didn't even know what was going on when we called it. And I remember James was already like, and for those listening, like that yoga dude, James. So he wanted to go. He didn't want to go to the West Coast. He was like, man, I'm not trying to go back home. And I was like, okay. But I remember I called one of the schools just in case, and they were like, what happened? And I'm like, okay, I'll talk to you. And so we called Howard, and they were like, nah, they were just kind of like, they knew what was going on, but they were like, I don't think we're going to be able to take somebody. Like, you're going to have some sort of financial aid. But I was like, I can't do nothing about financial aid because school already started.
Yeah.
And I remember that school in Miami, like, they were like, yeah, let me see, like, and we'll call you back. But by the time we heard back from Crenshaw about Morehouse, we had already went ahead and said yes, because Crenshaw was like, hey, they taking people, y'all coming or not, so I can tell them. And I was like, all right, well, yeah, we'll just go ahead and tell them. And then I remember, like, later on that day, the school in Miami called us back, and we were like, we already decided we was going to go to Morehouse.
Yeah.
So, and me and James, still to this day, we would talk about it. We like, man, like, what if we would have went to Miami instead? Like, how would that have been?
Yeah.
But I mean, we still had a great time.
Shit,
I know you had to. You probably felt left out because a little bit because you had stayed back and you at U of H and we was in Miami. I mean, not Miami, but Atlanta.
Honestly, I didn't, just because Femi was out there and J Mike was out there, Byron was out there, so it was like, I think that's how I really connected with Femi, going back to Houston and like kicking it with him all the time and shit. Yeah, I did TSU for like 2 weeks, and when I was like the youngest person in my calculus class, I ended up getting out of there. But yeah, man. How did you like U of H? And I'm asking that because like you went to 2 HBCUs and then you went there. Like, which one did you prefer and why?
Well, actually, like all the way around, I prefer the HBCU route.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, you got. I mean, of course, on the social part, that's the simple part to distinguish. The social part was completely different. Like HBCU all day, social part.
Yeah.
Now, the academic part of it, I'll say this. You definitely, and this wasn't just from the African American professors at the HBCUs, because you had professors from all different races at both schools.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like at the HBCUs, they cared more. They would put that extra conversation on you, that extra hand on you.
Yeah.
To say, like, hey, or like, what's going on? Or, like Like they were really trying to make sure people were succeeding. You know, I remember one time at Morehouse, like I had just got into this professor's class, and like he didn't know that I had dropped the class. He was chasing me down in his car, like through the parking lot, trying to catch me to figure out like, what are you doing? He thought that I was like just ignoring his class, like I was skipping his class.
Yeah.
But he didn't want me to fail. So any other professor was like, oh yeah, there go that loser over there. Like he's not even coming to my class anymore. Until I told him, I said, oh no, sir, like I dropped your class, for a different class. And he was like, oh, okay. But I remember he was like really trying to like get my attention, like, hey man, like what are you doing?
Yeah.
You didn't come to my class. So, and then I remember at Xavier too, like, I mean, those professors, man, they were really nice. You always felt like they were approachable, but I didn't always get that at U of H.
That's real. That's real.
Those are probably the reasons why I would say that.
I feel that. Man, fast forwarding a little bit past college, we end up both being in LA. What was LA like for you?
So LA, I feel like before I get to that, I feel like the college era was like the time for me to see that, okay, it's cool to separate and detach from everything from that you knew before college. But like, and then just kind of grow up a little bit. But LA just took it up several more notches. This was like the time for me to like what I took from LA was how to find an extra gear of work ethic and focus.
Yeah.
I got dropped into, I went out there for acting, and I got dropped into the most competitive arena for it. And what was going to separate you? Like, and you just moved all the way out there. Are you going to bullshit this time? Or are you just going to go out here and just be all lackadaisical and just like, oh, I'm in LA. Like, cause see, like the whole idea of being in LA, like it wasn't phasing me like that. Cause like I had grew up in a big city already. So like, oh, I'm in this big city. Like I wasn't falling in love with all that. I was like, I'm out here on a mission.
Yeah.
And that was all I really had to think about, because outside of like knowing y'all there, I didn't, like the other family I had there was like way out, like 2 hours away. So like, I didn't really have no outlets to not be focused.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I had to think about. And I wasn't going to let myself get drawn into this is, like that thinking of this is where I live.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm out here on a business trip. Even though I live here, I'm out here on a business trip. And I really wanted to succeed. So I saw other people working hard as well in my industry. And so, okay, find a way to work harder and smarter. And so that's what I did. And again, I started to find new levels of that extra gear.
Yeah.
And I'll forever use my experiences from there for the rest of my life.
That's what's up, man. What was your biggest challenge in pursuing acting?
Getting in the door.
Yeah.
And it can be so frustrating because you can have all the talent, but if the door won't open, who's going to see it? Yeah.
Do you miss it?
So I would say acting or LA?
Acting.
At times I miss the art. I miss the performance. I miss that part. I don't miss the industry itself, because the industry you know, the industry is what I think about when I think about the door opening, you
Yeah.
know, but the actual artistry itself and performing and you know, getting involved in scene study and being a character and like all that, I definitely missed that. And it's caused me to really like engulf myself more now into being a fan of it than what I was before. Like I really spend time like I try to find great acting, great content.
Yeah.
And so that kind of fuels my, you know, I guess my whatever feeling I have that I'm missing it. But so I mean yeah, it's still tough to think about sometimes that it's like I won't be doing it anymore, but you know, I know it's for the better.
Yeah. And you never know, shit. You might get in your 40s, 50s and might want to start doing it again. You know what I mean?
I
Get your
don't know about
Morgan Freeman on and shit.
No, I don't know about that, man. I don't know about that.
Man, what advice would you give to somebody young from the South that's pursuing acting and thinking about making that LA move?
Well, everybody's not gonna want to hear what I'm gonna say, but it's the truth.
Nah, man, keep it real.
You gotta. I see too many people that want to jump into acting without learning what acting is, and you think you know because maybe you were always real funny growing up. You know, maybe you did some stuff, you know, some acting and, you know, here or there, like, I don't know, in the school play or whatever. I've heard all different reasons, but you have to get involved in some sort of class, some sort of studying. You have to. Whether that's, you know, I mean, USC has a Master of Fine Arts acting program. You know, like, and if you don't want to do that, find a great teacher where you can learn and study this craft because it's very important, and you'll be surprised at how much you grow in being an actor. You know, it's not just about getting in front of a camera or getting in front of an audience, but like doing the stuff behind the scenes, you know, and I always give this analogy, like in sports, let's say basketball. You know, if you want to go and play in a game in the NBA or whatever, you're not just going to wake up and go show up at the game.
Yeah.
What are they doing? They're getting up jump shots. They're shooting jump shots. They're doing dribbling drills. They're doing, you know, running drills, like whatever it is. They're in there working on that craft. They're practicing. They're studying their craft. You know, and it's the same thing with that. You can't just wake up and go to the game and just think that you're going to be, you know, you're going to be this all-star. Like, you have to go and put your jump shots up.
Yeah.
And so that, like, to me, and I spend a lot of time on it because that's the most important part that I would say to anybody. And then after that, like, don't be afraid of theater. Like, you can go, like, being on film is all cool and it's fun. But theater is where you're really, really going to grow even more after you've taken that time to put up those jump shots with your craft, is to go into theater. And there was a saying that I never forgot when I was out there in LA. And it said, movies make you famous, TV makes you rich, and theater makes you a better actor. Mm. So I would say that, like, focus on studying your craft, focus on doing some theater, and let if the film comes, then the film comes. But you need to focus on those two first. Don't worry about being so quick to jump to LA, like you have to get there immediately, because you can build up a lot more experience wherever you are, whether you're in in Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, wherever, you can build up Florida, North Carolina, you can build up your stuff where you are, build up that experience. And then as you become, you can get an agent wherever you are after you build everything up, then you can try and make that leap and you'll know when the time is right. You don't have to make that jump immediately. You'll know when the time is right. Like, okay, I think I can go ahead and make that jump to Los Angeles. Because once you get out there, man, if you haven't done all that yet and you're trying to start from ground zero in LA, it's gonna be a while. Because there's so many people who are already there who have done what you've done already. And so those people, like, again, that door, it's going to be so much harder to open that door that I spoke about.
Yeah. That's real, man. I think now that I've been out here for a little while, I recognize that too. Like, you don't have to be in LA to make it. And I think that's probably what I would really want. Like, just people that's coming up, especially from where we from, to know like you can make it where you at.
Yeah. I told my cousin this years back. And my cousin, he listened. He went to a college, and he studied. He was doing a whole bunch of theater, and he was doing theater like where he was in school, and then that ended up pulling him into opportunities into the closest major city, which was Chicago, and then now he has an agent in Chicago, and he's been doing stuff there, and then like he was doing theater there consistently. And then he got a role on Empire, and he got some roles on some other shows and stuff. And now he has an agent in New York, as well as Chicago. And so it's just a matter of time where you're going to feel that it's that time, because you're going to start getting opportunities in other places. They're going to pull you there.
Yeah.
And he's still in Chicago right now. He doesn't need to jump to like, go ahead and continue working, dominate where you are. And then you can go there, eventually. And then like you said, like there's people who live primarily in New York that get a ton of work in New York that have no desire of moving to LA.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. And then whenever you do get there, or let's say you just blow everything off that I said, and you're like, I'm just going to go. I don't care. I'm ready to leave. You need to have in the back of your mind that you're willing to give this everything you have for 10 years straight, at least, before you feel like you're going to see the improvement. Now, I'm not going to say there's not going to be that miracle story where, within that first year, all of a sudden, you're on this TV show. But I'm telling you, after the experience that I've had and all the people that I've known out there, you need to be willing to give up 10 years of your life of giving everything you got before you start to see the change that you want. And that's still not guaranteed.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you need to be willing to give that up at least. Don't go out there on some 3-year plan. Because it's not, or a 2-year plan, a 5-year plan. Like, be willing to say, you know what, starting on day one, I'm going to give everything I got, and I'm going to do that for 10 years straight.
And I would also add, make sure you following your dream and not somebody else's. Like, know what you want out of this shit and know what you want to put into it, so you're not chasing somebody else's and, mad at yourself because you're not achieving somebody else's dream.
Right. And you got this needs to be something that you are passionate about. Because if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to wake up every day in LA, in that city, to do the grind. Now, if you feel like you just want to move there because you want to live there, then you're going to end up seeing yourself move like that. You're going to move like somebody that just moved there, and acting is going to look more like a hobby. But if you move there and you have that focus and that drive because you're so passionate about it, well, you're going to look like that person that's there on a business trip who's laser focused, trying to do what they need to do to get to the next level, to get those doors open.
That's real, man. And shit, I think that brings us to today. Cause now you're a lawyer, you
Oh man,
married, you
yeah.
got a kid. You know, what what does the future look like for Tommy P?
Mm. I don't know, but what I feel like is that I'm gonna try to control everything that I can control. And I already know, and I accept that some things I won't be able to. But what I can control, you can definitely believe I'm gonna put everything I can into that to make sure that it comes into the outcome that I want it to be,
Yeah,
whatever that might be. That's with everything. Um, and so I hope that I'm into my career, with a in a field of law that I really enjoy being in, and I'm doing that at a very high level, healthy, um, healthy mentally, physically, and financially, um, relationship wise, all that. That's what I hope, and I'm going to do everything I can to get to that.
that's what's up, man. I got a couple of more questions, and then I got a new segment that we doing. But first question is, what is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Oh man. Mm. Don't put so much focus into the girls. Don't don't put so much focus into girls. Move that down on the priority list. I was much more worried about um, trying to keep, you know, a bunch of options available to myself as opposed to making the priority of myself and my future the number one priority. And I didn't start to do that until I moved to LA. But before that, it was too much that I prioritized that um, when I should have been more focused on what was more important. And but that came with maturity. But that's what I would tell my younger self is, hey, go ahead and move that around now. Don't learn that later.
Yeah,
Um, and also, the second thing I would tell myself is you're doing good, knowing that you don't have to get involved in all the foolishness that you see that'll get you in trouble. But even scale it back even more and start trying to take school more seriously.
yeah,
Because I didn't take school seriously enough, really not until I got to law school. And that was by the grace of God that I was able to smarten up and get to that point.
yeah.
But I can tell you this: when I did get into law school, I gave it everything I had,
That's what's up,
every single
man.
thing I had.
That's what's up. What's one reminder you want to give to your future self?
Mm. Man, I hate to give you a silence like this on
No,
here,
it's all
but
good.
that's uh a reminder I like to give to myself. Man, I hope I wouldn't have to give myself a reminder. But if I did, I would say remember what it felt like to when you were when you had no choice but to be hungry.
Yeah.
You know, because as I continue on with what I'm putting forward in my life, you know, of course we expect the fruition to at least play out in some way that we want it to. You know, we want the outcome to be where we become more successful, more accomplished. And sometimes people have a tendency to, as they get further and further entrenched into that, they have a tendency to forget about, you know, where they came from,
Yeah.
forget about how it was. And then that will also sometimes get you to kind of relax a little too much. Start smelling yourself a little bit. And that's one thing I would say. Just remember how it was. You know, remember how it was when years back, you know, you had like $2 in your bank account. You know, like remember how that was. And the focus that you had when you told yourself that this is never gonna happen again.
That's real, man. And what is one lesson that you can share with the listeners?
A lesson. I mean that's tough because I mean, how would you want me to tailor that lesson? Let me ask you that.
It could
Like
be
in
anything
what
you
part of my
want,
life?
man. At any point, like just something that you like, one piece of advice or a lesson that you could share with the listeners. It could be anything you want, but just something that somebody else could benefit off of.
I'd probably say, you know, I mean, some quotes are firing off in my head, um, you know, but I would say is just like whatever that is that you want to do, like figure out that plan. Figure out a plan on how you can get there. Find out who has accomplished that before. And see how they got to where they got to. See how they got there. See if there's a map of how there is a path to get into that place. Study that and see how, not how you, don't just say, okay, I'm going to follow that path. See how you can make that path straighter. See how you can make that path more efficient. And try your best to get to that goal, whatever that may be. And remain focused on what that is, you know, and you can apply that to so many other things. Like some people, like they, you know, they're like, oh, I always wanted to go to I don't know, to Paris. And they're like, you know, but I don't know when I'm going to get, like, okay, do you even know how much it costs to get there? No, well, I know it's a lot of money. Well, like, figure out, like, what is it going to take for you to get there?
Yeah.
And then once you figure out, you know, like work backwards. Like, okay, this is where you want to go. How can you get there? What does it take to get there? And then what can you do here to accomplish all those things in front of you?
Yeah.
And sometimes how you can accomplish that is when you set out small goals to accomplish that big one. Sometimes it can be frustrating to look at, okay, I got this big goal that I want to accomplish. And then you're like, man, but that's going to take a lot. Well, break those up into smaller goals. Okay. If I can do this small thing right here. Okay. And then I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do that. Okay. Well, if you knocked off 3 of those smaller goals, well, you might be halfway there. And now it's not seeming so bad, but focus on what you can that's right in front of you.
That's what's up, man.
Control what you can control. I'll say that too. That's a whole nother, like, control what you can control and don't get discouraged by what you can't control.
Yeah.
Don't let what you can't control defeat you.
That's real, man.
And stop talking about stuff. Be about stuff. You really want to go there, or you really want to go do this? You know, I mean, there's a lot of small steps you can take. Oh, you want to be a lawyer? Okay, well, of course, we all know there's law school, but why don't you go talk to a few?
Yeah.
See how they got there, because they might be able to give you insight so that you don't make some of the mistakes that they did. You can make your route, again, like I said before, more efficient. Okay, I talked to this person. He told me this. Okay, I talked to that person. They told me this. Now you make an educated decision. Figure out where you need to go. Okay, now how do I need to get there? You can look online. What are the requirements? Okay, this is what I need to get in there. Okay, cool. You set out the plan. Figure it out inch by inch, step by step, and then get there that way. And stop worrying about everybody else on social media and what they're doing and what they're driving or what they have, or, the clothes that they have on, which don't mean nothing. Like, everybody runs their own race.
Yeah.
So run your own race. Who cares? Like, okay, that person might be trying to do the same thing as you. Maybe they got there faster. Maybe whatever. We don't know. But you run your own race to get there. Everybody has their own race. And sometimes races aren't sprints, they're marathons. So you have to be content with that too.
All right, Nip.
Oh, man. Get out of here, man.
I'm playing. All right, man.
I don't have those shoes.
This next segment is called 5 Questions of Freedom, sponsored by Feel Free to Feel Free. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions.
Shout out that yoga dude. My dog. My dog, that yoga dude doing his thing.
So I'm going to ask you 5 questions and you got to answer as fast as you can. So let me know when you're ready.
Whew. All right.
DJ Screw or Michael Watts?
DJ Screw. But you made that tough though. But DJ Screw, legendary.
Rockets or the Texans?
Rockets.
Who's your favorite hot boy?
Oh, I'm in the minority with this one. It was Turk growing up.
Really? Why Turk?
Mm-hmm. Man, I was just always different. And I felt like he was like, he was just so different than everybody. And I don't know, he just always stuck out to me.
That's what's up, man. That's dope.
Yeah. Yeah, he was my favorite. It was Turk, man.
Yeah. What is your top 3 favorite places to travel?
Oh man, that's not hard. It has to be somewhere I've already been, right? Because you said top 3 favorite to travel.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So where I've been, my top 3, number 1 is Amsterdam.
Okay.
Number 2 is Switzerland, and then number 3 is tough. It's out of Paris, and I say number 3 is probably Turks and Caicos.
Okay. And last one. My name is Tommy P, and if I wasn't a lawyer, I would be blank.
Okay, so I can't say actor no more. So I'd say a basketball coach.
Okay, that's what's up. I mean, you can't hoop, but
Man, don't make me catch a flight in this pandemic, boy. I know there's a park open somewhere.
Ain't no goals out here.
Man, look, you gonna make me go buy one. We be up there at Walmart. We be in the middle of the aisle at Walmart. Like, let's go 5. Let's go to 5 right now.
Oh man,
please,
man.
Man, somebody challenged me in law school. They said, "Man, you can't hoop. I bet you I beat you in 1-on-1." I said, "Man, look, I will spot you 5 points, and we go into 10, and you won't score another point."
Wow.
And he never wanted to take me up on that offer.
That's funny. Shoot, if y'all want somebody to take bets with on hooping, Tommy P is here. Man, Tommy P, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. Where can the people find you?
Man, I'm not too active on social media like that, but I mean, they can find me on Facebook or Instagram, Blade_Brown_. So, I get on there every once in a while, but other than that, I'm just out here in Houston, just trying to be better every day.
That's what's up, man. You a hometown hero, so I appreciate you coming on the show.
Get out of here.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all for listening. This is Mike Brown, and this is The Art of Letting Go. Peace.
All right. Appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of The Art of Letting Go. If you like what you heard, please be sure to subscribe to us wherever you listen to this podcast and leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Let other people know what you think as well. If you want to get in touch with us, hit us up on all social media at The Art of Letting Go Podcast. Also, you can send me an email, theartoflettinggopodcast@gmail.com, or give us a call. Leave a message. We might play it on the show. 213-394-2773. Also, if you would like to support The Art of Letting Go, we got some really cool merch, as well as we're now on Patreon. You can find us, The Art of Letting Go Podcast. Subscribe to us. Thank you guys for listening. This is Mike Brown, and this is The Art of Letting Go.